Okay, today I want to talk to you about early release, or flipping as some people like to call it. So come on, let's go do it. So what is early releasing, casting, flipping? What is that? Okay, so what actually is it, and also what causes that? Okay, so one of the things that we see golfers doing, or they also call it scooping as well, just sometimes when they're coming down to hit the ball, they're just prior to impact, they're just losing a bit of this angle here in their right wrist, and they're presenting the club back. If I bring this over here, so when they're coming down from the top of the swing here, there's a tendency for the wrists to release, okay, a little early, and they get into a position here where either the shaft is vertical to them at impact, or their hands are even, or worst case scenario, hands are behind, and they're just losing a lot of this angle that you would like to see. Generally at impact, what we would like to see is that the hands are pressed slightly forward in front of the ball, just so this delivers the club head on the right angle of attack. It also helps with compression, as we like to hear people call it. It helps with better strike, so you're not going to hit it low on the bottom grooves. You know, you want to be about the third, fourth groove up on the face as you hit it, and you're presenting the club in that position to be able to do that. If my hands are behind, or the club head is getting ahead of my hands, generally my low point is bottoming out here somewhere, and I'm presenting the bottom of the club to the ball. So it's quite an important part. It also helps to stabilize the club face through impact, because if my hands are coming a bit early, I'm tendency to roll my hands through a little bit. I'm going to miss-hit it. I'm going to catch it heavy. I'm going to catch it thin. I'm going to catch it off the bottom of the club, off the toe, off the heel. It's not a nice shot to be playing. Generally, with a golfer that can do well with this, they tend to hit their drivers quite well, or their woods quite well off a tee peg, because that sort of action, with it being on a tee, you conducive to doing it. Okay, you can actually hit up on the ball and still make reasonable contact, but yet with the irons, you're not making the same compression move as you would like. All right, so it's really a move that we see a lot of amateur golfers make. I see a lot of good golfers make it as well. You know, where they're, especially with long irons, maybe they're trying to help the ball up with the long iron subconsciously. They don't mean to be doing it, instead of trusting the loft on it. And so from this sort of angle here, you're sort of losing that shape here on the downswing. I'm losing my wrist hinge here, and I'm making my swing arc too wide, basically. Okay, so it's an important one to sort of work on, and it's, you know, where we want to sort of see golfers when they're coming down is as they're pulling the club down to this point here, the natural lag, as they call it, or the increase in the wrist hinge, is being created by the weight of the club and the speed of the hands working, and this right wrist mainly creating or maintaining its hinge right up to the last minute. Now, this isn't to say, though, that in the golf swing you want to hold it all the way through, which we see golfers make the mistake of. They seem to think that they need to hold it all the way through. At some point, you want to hold this lag and then release it. That's where the speed comes from, that's where the power comes from. But if we do it too early, and you do it up here somewhere, you've got nothing to really swing with or hit with, if that makes sense, and you get a sort of a scoopy sort of action with very lack of power. Okay, again, it wasn't a great strike. So it's really important that we try to get this feeling of creating lag. By the time my left hand is sort of in line with my right thigh, okay, or the butt end of the club here, I'm still holding this angle back here. So good positioning is, as I'm coming down to this point here, I'm moving up into my left side. As I get the handle to about thigh high here, or in line with the thigh, the shaft here is still on a set slight angle to the swing arc, if that makes sense. So I'm still holding that right wrist back. After that, then the weight of the club will then release, and then it just times up nicely as my left hip pushes back to clear out the way. Everything releases nicely, hit the ball, and then I release it through. Okay, so it's really important that you learn to do that, and try to get into that position on the way down to try and hit the ball. So from here and through, I can really get a nice compression on the ball and drive it forward. So it's just understanding it. In my experience, it's understanding it first. Okay, understand what it is you're trying to achieve, what it is you're trying to see, and then it's a case of then trying to rehearse it and repeat, practice it. So that's what we're going to try and do. So first of all, you need to understand what it is you're trying to achieve before you can start moving on and trying to make it happen. All right, so number one rule, make sure you video yourself. We've all got camera phones generally nowadays. Film it, have a friend film it for you, watch it back and see. The general telltale signs I see generally is generally about here somewhere. We call it the delivery position. Okay, when like I say, when the hand is just sort of in line with the right thigh. If you're a right-handed golfer, you generally start to see a straight line forming here. Okay, ideally you want to see a slight angle. Okay, ideally when my left hand is in line with my right thigh, I'm looking to see that the shaft is parallel to the ground still. I've still got enough angle in there to then release it through the ball. All right, so that's generally what we're looking for. That's what the casting or throwing or early release method is. I want to just show you some of the things that might cause it, and then we'll show you a couple of drills that's going to hopefully help you to improve on it. What can actually cause early releasing or casting, okay, is number one rule generally is an open club face. So generally if the club face is open at the top, in an effort to try and square the face back up again, if it's coming down far too open, say my club face is almost laying down this way, in an effort to try and square that face up again, you're then trying to climb the right hand over in order to try and square that face off, and it will do a good job of it. So number one rule there would be you try and fix the club face first, and that could be down to even how you hold in the club. You can just strengthen the left hand a bit more, and that could bring the club face nice and close, because what will happen is there, if your club face is too close, your body will react by thinking, hang on, I need to hold this through impact, so you end up holding the release naturally off. All right. Also, another one which I mentioned a bit earlier is a general tendency for you to scoop it. So you tend to have a tendency for the upper body to go backwards and lean behind, and you stand your right foot to try and lift the ball up. Again, it's normally a subconscious movement. So this feeling of leaning back on the right side and scooping. Okay, so what you would generally fix there is to try and get more onto the left side. Butch Harmon famously, very easily sort of used to say, try and get your nose past the ball. Okay, so when you're swinging it, try and get your nose past the ball, and you'll always be shifting your weight and your pressures properly then through the shot. You wouldn't be hanging back behind. If my nose is behind the ball, then I'm going to hit up and scoop on it. Okay, another one I've seen this one just recently, is an overdrive of the legs. Okay, people trying to get the hips to fire forward first, and what happens is here, when they get to the top of the swing, if they try to fire the hips first, okay, this tends to tilt their spine backwards, their head tends to stay exactly where it was, they're driving this way, and this gets the club behind them, and then they're trying to then release in order to try and catch up and get the club head back to the ball. Otherwise they'll just totally miss it, they'll whiff over the top of it. Okay, so that from this side, I've seen this all this week really, where you see golfers, they try to spin the hips out forward, they do what they call early extend, then they're trying to then catch up to square the blade up to hit the ball, and again that's when they sort of hit behind it, they thin it, they hit very high sort of weak shots which don't have any power or compression. So that's some of the causes there. Now I'm going to take the two drills. I've got a drill that I tend to work on to get the right feeling. I'm going to take as read that your body is moving correctly back and through and hitting the ball correctly, and it's working functionally, but you're just losing the angle in your wrists. All right, so that's generally what I tend to see golfers lose, and if we can work on that, then we can tidy up other bits. But general rule of thumb is we would tend to tidy up the body action first, making sure that's working correctly, and then we can tidy up the wrist hinge, let's say, or cock. But ideally we're going to just jump forward on that and make sure that you're already at that stage where you've improved your body. But generally as a whole, if you are doing this, always revert back to the basics first: grip, stance, posture, ball position. Then look at how the body's functioning, making sure you are shifting the weight from right to left, making sure you're getting ahead of the ball impact with your irons, and generally having a good posture or body movement and getting that feeling. But the drill I want to show you is going to be sort of just to help you to maintain that wrist angles, and there's two ways that I tend to do this. Okay, so come on, let's go do that. Okay, so drill number one, it's as old as the hills. It's been going around for a very long time. It's to do with maintaining this right hand lag. Okay, so when I'm swinging down, I want to maintain my right wrist staying back, okay, on itself. So I create this angle here in my wrist when I swing back, as you know, the old waiter's tray. I want to try and maintain this angle as long as I can. Some golfers like to think of the knuckles on the back of the left hand, or the right hand, sorry, trying to get as close to the forearm as I possibly can get them. Okay, generally the loss of that swing is generally when you release that too early, and you've released that throw too early. Okay, because the golf swing essentially is a throw-in action, but you're going to tend to lose that just a bit too early. All right, now a great way to practice this and do this is actually to hold the club cack-handed, so left hand below the right. Okay, and you're going to make the swing, and this will you'll really feel your right wrist when you swing back. You'll really feel the right wrist hinge back on itself a lot more because the left hand's sort of pulling on it. And as I pull the club down, I want to feel as though the handle is moving down towards the ball quite sharply. This is going to really retain, because my left hand's pulling my right wrist back. Okay, you can really feel this retain this angle for as long as possible, and it needs to be as deep and as long as you can possibly feel, because at the moment, remember, you're doing it too early. You know, feel versus real. Pull that down here and really get a feeling of that action. So I'm really going to go from here down and push through. Okay, I can really feel that in my right wrist, and then the trick from there then is to then try and duplicate that feeling in the golf swing. So I'm going to go from here. I'm going to really feel as I'm pulling that down as long as I possibly can to this position here, and really hold that deep. For me, I always feel as though that my right palm is facing down to the ground for as long as I possibly can, and then it releases through. All right, I have been guilty in the past of having that early release or casting, especially with my long irons, but I'm going to really feel like I'm holding on to that angle as long as I possibly can. It really helps me to crisp out my strike and give me that real ball then turf contact that I'm after, that most golfers want. Okay, but it really feels like I'm going very deep down into the swing by holding that angle off and through. Okay, so I'm really holding that angle back. I'm really holding that wrist position back here for as long as I possibly can through the shot. It's just practice, and again, you can just do a couple of swings, left hand back, feel that handle coming down, and I'm holding that angle back for as long as I possibly can to then swing through. Just rehearse it a couple of times, take your grip, have a little waggle. I like to have a little practice swing before and through. Okay, I really feel that holding on as long as I possibly can. I'm sure I could do it more. Right? But again, it's getting that feeling and not being afraid. I mean, hitting into nets is great because you've got no, I mean, I've got my flight scope on here today, but hitting into nets is great because you've got no concept of where it's going. All right, all I'm worried about is the actual action that I'm making, as opposed to actually worrying about where the ball's going. All right, I'm not going to worry about where this one goes. All right, wasn't the best contact, a bit low on the face, that one. So I'll have another go, try and feel that movement. So I'm going to hold that throw as long as I possibly can. A bit better. Felt more controlled on that one. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad for an old boy. 160 in distance. Easy swing, really. I'm not really throwing myself at it. There's only 84-mile-an-hour swing speed. I'm too big a frame, really, to try and swing it any faster. So I'm just holding that angle. I felt that release a little early, actually. All right, so that's drill number one, trying to hold that wrist angle, just left hand below right, and just feel that pulling down into the ball. All right, that's a great way of doing it. So drill number two is all to do with how to throw a ball, okay, and we can all pretty much do that, right? It's just learning how to throw the ball. So when you throw, you have a tendency to naturally release and delay the release, and to throw it in the direction that you want. So throwing some balls down the fairway can really help you to really feel that release. I can feel here that I'm holding on to that angle for as long as possible to then release it through. And I'm doing it naturally. So I'm holding that angle here, the right wrist right arm stays in the right place, it gets in front of me, I'm holding that angle here to then throw through. So back and throw, okay? So as I said earlier, the golf swing is a throw-in action, okay? And if I was to throw too early, I wouldn't have any power in the throw, and I'd probably throw it left, if that makes sense. I'd throw it to the left-hand side. If I delayed it too long, I'd throw it out to the right. So I've got to put myself in this position here to feel that right wrist staying flexed, back and through. So I can really feel that movement for staying as long as I possibly can, and I can feel the throw-in action happen, all right? So it's proper important to try and train that. You can also do it at the ground if you wanted to, so it's more realistic to throw in at a ball in the swing. So I can practice on swinging back to, just to here, and just practice at throwing at the ground here and throwing at the ground. I can really feel how I would delay that wrist and throw it at the ground. So it's just that feeling. It's all about feel as opposed to any technical thoughts. Yes, I think it's important to understand where you want it to be, but again, it's just about generating the right feel. Okay, now you can turn that into a golf swing. You can take hold of the golf club and you can just practice feelings of your throwing or delaying the throw later. Okay, so I'm just going to feel like I'm going to delay the throw later. Okay, I can really feel it when I'm doing it. It's a very natural movement. Throwing is a natural thing. A lot of people can do it and they can instantly pick up on it. So that's what I'm trying to feel through the swing, that I'm delaying my throw for longer. Okay, hopefully that puts me into a good position on the way down, that I'm just delaying it just that little bit longer to then release through. It's a great way of doing it. It works and I like it because it gives me a nice contact when I do it. I get a much better contact through the ball when I do this. So feel that wrist hinge and feel it delay. I get a much better contact on the ball when I do that. So that's sort of drill number 2 really. It's 163, 84 mile an hour still, 1.39 smash. Dynamic loft was 23. Okay, so I'm maintaining that loft quite nicely really. So it's just practicing. I'm just doing here a lot of swings to get the feel for that delay. I felt like I let that go a little early. All right, so I'm getting to the point now where I can feel it. I felt what was a good one. I can now feel when I do a bad one. So you stop, reassign, reflect, add in a few practice swings just to reflect on that. Now, one that I used to do when I was younger was, we used to call it like the pump and go drill. Now, you don't hit it great to start with, but we used to get ourselves into backswing position, down into this position here. So I was in the right delivery position, so left hand's opposite my right thigh. I've got that little angle here. And what we used to do was just to create a little bit of a pumping action with the hands, arms and shoulders all working together, back and through. Okay, it was just to get the feeling. So I'd done the hard part of getting the club down to the ball. Okay, we're into a delivery position. So I'm just going to go back here, down to this point here. I'm in the delivery position. Got it right, can feel it. Couple of pumps, back and through. Ooh, took a bit of a divot there. Release that early then. But you get a feeling for it, okay? I totally messed that one up. But the good news is, like I said, I got the feeling. I understood it. I know exactly what it was I did there. I released it too early. But the pump drill, ideally you'd want to do it off a T-peg, to be honest with you. But it's a great drill. So back here, couple of pumps, back and through. Okay, I'm putting myself in the right position. It's doable. All right, so one more go. I'm going to swing back, put it here in the right position, in delivery position, back and through. Okay, I can do it and I can feel it. That's the key. All right, so when you're practicing next, Don't just grab the driver straight away. Do a lot of practice swings, a lot of rehearsals. Okay. Once I've done that a few times, I've got the feeling, I think, for it now. I'm now going to just go up there and try to recreate it. All right. That felt good. I don't know how it looked on camera, but it felt good. All right. So practice that as much as you can and get yourself on camera. Look in mirrors, look in windows. I used to do that a lot as a child, looking in the windows that I had at the house, checking on my movement down, getting a feel for what it looks like and seeing it as well. If your eyes see it, they'll send it to the brain, it will receive it, and then it puts it into action. Love it. Okay, so that's casting or early release. There's a couple of things there, or three things actually. I've given you a bonus one there really. So number one, do the left hand below the right, get that feeling of that wrist staying right back. Number two is throwing the ball, practice that out either the ground or into the distance. And then number three, just doing that pump action. Okay, so just from here, just swing back, pull it down to this position here, couple of pumps, and then hit through. Okay, you've delayed the action long enough to be able to hit the ball solidly from there. All right, so hopefully that helps, and give those things a try. So, okay, so that's casting the club, early release, scooping, flipping, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so give those things a try. I mean, there's obviously other things to think about as well. You know, is it your body action that's causing it? This is where online tutelage or having lessons with a golf pro really, really works. Okay, so having see it, you know, your eyes receive, your eyes can see, your brain receives, and the body reacts. That's how you change things, and you've got to feel it in order to make those changes. And overdo it, over exaggerate it. You'll make mistakes. I made a mistake there a little earlier by bailing out at the last minute by releasing it and hitting 15 feet behind the ball. It's going to happen. Dust yourself off, move back in, and think, right, okay, reset, start again. Let's move into it so I get it right. Okay. Hopefully that helps you, and hopefully that will improve your golf. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share it with other people as well. And comment below anything you want to suggest, ask, or find out more. I'll be more than happy to answer you. Anyway, have a good week, and I'll see you next time.